In this video, I want to share top 5 tips which will make your leads sound more pro, plus some bonus tips which I've developed myself just by making music over the year. So let's start. Yeah, so very nice melodic house track. And the first thing you need to think about, guys, is choosing the right waveform. So for example, if you want to make a bright lead, you should choose between the square and the saw. Or maybe you could choose some kind of FM wave table, but in general, if you want to get a bright lead, that's either the square or the saw. So as you can see, guys, in this example, if I want to get the bright lead, I will need to choose the right waveform. Because if I don't choose the right waveform, I'm just going to lose the vibe of my track, and definitely we don't want that. So let's increase the decay time, guys, and see how this affects the track. I'm going to mute the drums and just let the kick, the bass, and the lead play together. Yeah, I've also increased the sustain, guys, and now it might sound nice at some point, but let's now use the filter on the master channel and listen to the low end. So we're gonna focus on the kick and the bass, how they sound. And remember, we have increased the decay and sustain time on our lead. Now, guys, let's listen again carefully, but I'm going to decrease the decay time and sustain for my lead, so the lead becomes more like punchy, plucky, and let's compare. I think you could definitely tell that now the kick and the bass sound much more cleaner, because the lead and the kick and the bass, they doesn't clash, like the frequencies and the length of the notes. So we have like short punchy notes which doesn't affect the kick and the bass too much. So pay attention to that, guys. So if you are using a like punchy bass, it's better to use a punchy lead as well, or if you are or you could use a long lead. So for example, I could draw something like that, maybe like that, let's say something like that, and then you could apply sidechain and it's gonna be okay. So remember this concept, guys, the leads and the bass, they should not clash with each other. So it's really important to work with the envelope, or you can also call that adsr, which stands for attack, decay, sustain, and release. So let's go to the next tip, guys, and this one is about rhythmical pattern of your lead, so like the melody. As you can see, guys, sometimes I have my lead which plays together with my bass, but ideally it's better if your notes, like the lead and the bass, don't play together. And in most tracks, I see that music producer just make some nice leads which play together with their bass, and sometimes it can be muddy, but sometimes it can also add some energy, and it really depends on the adsr, guys, on the waveform, etc. But I just wanted to let you know that it might fix some issues within your tracks. So let's now compare the pattern. So for example, we could copy some notes, maybe ear, 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 ear. This is just a suggestion, guys, how we could make our pattern. So maybe an octave higher. I'm going to change the melody just a bit. Yeah, basically, guys, we've got almost the same vibe. I mean, it doesn't sound that nice as the previous melody, but if you make the leads and the bass using that concept from the beginning, you can achieve some very nice and clean results. And the next tip, guys, is the melody. It really depends on the genre, but I can give you some quick tips for the melody. So, for example, in melodic house, as you can see, basically the pattern just keeps repeating. Though sometimes we have some notes like that, like that, like that, that, and this one. If I delete those, you can see that the melody just keeps repeating. And yeah, this is the first tip. Try to be simple with your melody, because sometimes it's better, to use the key of your track. So for example, you can see that the most notes are in E, which is the key of my track, and sometimes I have those notes which come and they add some variation, which is the tip number 2 for the melody. And you could also add variation by using like some kind of new notes here, so it differs a bit. So altogether, guys, my loop is 8 bars long. So the longer your loop is, the more interesting it is for the listener. And yeah, so let's listen like the last part of the melody here. And here it's a bit different, but basically it's almost the same. I've just changed a couple of notes, but in general it's the same vibe, the same feeling, the same melody. And yeah, I hope you guys get this one. And the next tip, guys, is automation. There are a lot of different parameters on the synthesizer which you can automate, but the most common one is filter. So you automate the filter cutoff. You can also automate resonance, the decay time, release time, and basically whatever parameter of the synth. And it really depends on the context of your track, because sometimes in some genres, like for example, let's say it's better to automate the filter, and in another genre it's better to automate the, like, let's say decay or release time, something like which is about adsr, the envelope, stuff like that. So yeah, but here, as you can see, guys, I've automated my filter. The track is not finished though, but let's just quickly draw some automation lines. So for example, we could do something like that. No, I think I want to do something like that. So as you can hear, guys, when I open the filter, the tension increases, and it's really all about those small changes during the arrangement, like during the O track. So you automate the filter, you automate the adsr, and in general it makes like a huge impact. And the next step, guys, is saturation. By the way, if you haven't watched my saturation video, make sure to go and watch it, because it has a lot of interesting tips and information for you. We could use an overdrive by Ableton. So basically, guys, what saturation does, it reduces the dynamic range, so the sound becomes more flat, and it's easy to kill the dynamics of your sound, so you should be very careful with the saturation. But sometimes it can be really nice to, you know, apply a lot of distortion, like extreme saturation for sound design purposes, and this makes our ears feel like the sound has become louder, but it's more about perceived loudness because we have increased the peaks, and the dynamics, we've squashed them, and that is the reason why we think the sound is louder. But in general, what saturation does, it adds harmonics, so it becomes more, you know, more present in the mix. For example, if you add saturation to your drums, to your leads, you're going to hear those instruments better in the context of your mix. So yeah. Yeah, and you can use whatever plugin you like. I'm sure you guys have your favorite saturators. And next tip is EQing, guys. EQing is crucial. It's, I would say, the most important thing when it comes to mixing. If we don't count the sound design, because sound design, arrangement, and mixing, they all are very well connected to each other. Because if your sound design is bad and arrangement is bad, it's just nearly impossible to mix such a track. So for the EQing, guys, I'm going to show you another track. So let's open another project. Let's now look at the EQing, guys, and as you can see, what I did here, I've cut the low end, and I've done that because we need to free up the space for our kick and bass, and in most cases you would need to cut around 100 for the live instruments, or maybe sometimes even 80-60 hertz, so we don't lose that natural low end of our instrument. But for the synths, in most cases it's okay to cut at 100, 150, sometimes even 200 when it comes to some textures, pads. Since those sounds are synthetic, it's okay to make a low cut, as you can see, guys, like that. So we could change it and it becomes a bit different. So yeah, for the synths I prefer more rough cut like this one. And what you could do is use the low shelf. So as you can see, I've applied the low shelf, a really nice type of EQ filter which you should use in every project. And yeah, nothing really special, just a iShelf which helps to put the lead into the mix so it sits good. And I've also boosted the mid so you could hear the mid frequencies on smaller speakers and like not good systems. I mean like crappy speakers like earpods, cheap headphones, cheap speakers, stuff like that. So on monitors, of course, you can hear everything, but when it comes to cheaper systems, you need to make sure that your bass and the mid sound good. And the final step, guys, is the velocity. So as you can see, there are some dynamics going on there, and basically the concept I use when I'm working with the velocity. So if we zoom a little bit, let's now do like that. So I'm going to make the velocity same for every note, and the concept I'm using, guys, when I'm working with velocity, the first note should be very quiet because we want to free up the space for our kick. So for example, we could make something like that, and the second note can be louder. So for example, we could increase the loudness, and now again we decrease the loudness. So basically guys, you will use a quiet note and then the loud note, and repeat and repeat and repeat. Of course, you could play a little bit with the velocity, but it seems for me that this concept works in most cases. So let's draw the velocity for our notes. So let's draw the velocity for our notes, and as you can see, guys, even when I'm working with the quieter notes, it's still some kind of dynamic. So they still are loud, quiet, loud, quiet. So this is the loud, quiet note, but this is the quiet, quiet note. And again, the loud, quiet note and the quiet, quiet note. This is the loud, loud note, guys. And this one is the loud, quiet note. I hope you get this one. It might be a little bit odd, but if you look at the pattern, you know what I'm talking about. So that was all for today, guys. I've tried to share my knowledge, how I make my leads. I hope you found some value in this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, and also, guys, don't forget to smash that little bell icon as well, because it's really important, because YouTube sees that you guys are subscribing, liking the content, and the channel grows and people see my videos and recommendations, and it really helps to grow the channel, as I said. Okay, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.